check 1 2. Testing. Welcome to another episode. No negative behavior. You know, happy belated Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. You know, yesterday was Mother's Day. You know, drop a bomb on all the mothers that's out there. Happy Mother's Day to y'all. You know, if somebody forgot to tell you, let me tell you. Let me be the first one to remind you that y'all all beautiful and happy Mother's Day. I got some special guests in the house tonight. What's up, ladies?
Hey, how y'all doing?
Introduce yourself.
I'm Fredell Myers.
Fredell Myers. Drop a bomb on Fredell because she's under the weather and she still made it to the show. She got her halls and everything laid out right here. You can't see it, but she's here. So drop a bomb on Fredell. What's up, Fredell?
Nothing much. Just, you know, working hard, grinding hard.
Right. Move the mic a little closer to you.
Closer.
Yeah.
Working on, you know, quite a few projects at one time. It's keeping me very busy.
Right.
Yeah, so we're doing the nonprofit as well as our documentary of the Fredell Myers story.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get into
doing all of that. So
yeah,
just staying busy right now.
For sure, we're gonna get into that. And we have to my far right, move the microphone a little closer.
I am Stacy Peterson. I am working with Fredell Myers on Invisible Child and all her numerous projects.
That's dope.
Yes.
That's dope.
Best manager in the world.
Invisible Child. Invisible Child. That's the organization, right?
Yeah, it's a nonprofit organization.
It's a nonprofit organization.
Yeah.
For children.
To benefit children of incarcerated parents.
Right. Children of, we got to give a round of applause for that. Children of incarcerated parents. Because, you know, those children, they're neglected. For sure, they're neglected.
It's an oversight.
Right.
They're definitely the underserved, because when people usually, you know, think about prison reform and, you know, helping out families that are affected by the prison system, and, you know, they always think about the second chance programs for, you know, ex-felons, and also for, you know, like women in need services. They try to get women reacclimated to, you know, society, and getting them training, you know, work job readiness training and workshops and stuff like that.
Right.
But no one ever thinks about the children. We have female celebrities who have gone to prison and come out, and they did start, you know, organizations, but they started them for formerly incarcerated females, but no one has really took time to thought about the children. And me being a child of incarcerated parents, it hit home for me, and I felt like it was something that needed to be done. Right,
because, all right, you said you was a child of incarcerated parents.
Yes, exactly.
And that's where we get into your dad, right?
Yes, my father. So in 1983, my father was, I'm going to go a little further back. My father name is New York Freddie Myers. He's from Harlem, New York.
Right.
He was one of Harlem's biggest drug kingpins. He sold heroin. He had the streets of Harlem from 114th Street to 122nd Street. In March of '83, my father was arrested. My whole family was arrested, actually. Both parents, my siblings, several of my father's workers and stuff like that also. So at that time,
I did some research. I seen like your dad had, was it 115th Street or 114th Street
to 120 something.
Yeah. To 120, I think, First Street or something like
exactly,
that.
Exactly.
And you know, the funny thing is that my father met your father before.
Oh, really?
He met both your father and Frank Lucas.
Okay.
Well, he met Frank Lucas in the can. He met him in jail, but my mother or my sister was just telling me, because she seen me watching something on Freddie Myers, and she was like, your dad met him before, dad knew him. My father was from that block.
Wow. Where, 114th Street?
114th Street.
Wow, that's
right.
amazing.
Yeah, my dad was from that block, so.
So you knew him. What's your dad's name, if you don't mind?
Yeah, my dad's name was Al. He passed away, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he wasn't in the game. He wasn't in the drug
but
game.
He knew a lot of people.
He was from the block.
Okay, yeah, that's where my family's from, actually. I posted a picture today and said I'm block parties on 114th Street and 8th Avenue old, and I posted a block party that was like in, I want to say, the 70s. Yeah, that's me standing there with the pamper on the picture.
That's crazy.
It's black and white. That's how old it is.
All right, I'm going to go live on Facebook because we're having some technical difficulties with Facebook.
You don't see it on Facebook?
No, it's not posting on Facebook, so I'm I'm gonna just go live here.
The live thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna start a live video for everybody that will, they want to watch.
Right.
What's this? So we once again we in the building with Fredell Myers. Fredell Myers in the building. She came in with a cold. She traveled here in the rain. It's cold outside, and she's here. She's a trooper. Once again, I must drop a bomb on her. And we was talking about her dad. Her dad name is Freddie Myers, New York. Freddie Myers.
Yes.
And it's funny because I knew Fredell for a very long time.
Yes.
Is it? Well, I just went live. That's why. Oh, you see it?
I see it.
Okay. Well, I don't see it.
I'm on your page, so I can see it.
Really? All right. So if you're on my page, you can see it on my page, and I'm going live on my page. So it's all good. Everybody can see it now. So I knew Fredell for quite some time. I knew you for a while, right?
Well, I met you 12 years old. 11, 12 years old.
And
Dice from the Heights.
That's right. And I never knew about, what was going on in your life. You were still coming to school. Yeah. You were still smiling the way you smile right now. You were still, had that energy, that hot energy.
Yes. But I was always doing that to cover, what I was really going through. But I experienced a lot of childhood trauma.
Right.
I was there when my family was arrested, and, to watch them take away your whole family, your life change as you know it, in a matter of seconds. They came into our house 5 a.m. in the morning and, removed my whole family. So, back then, even when you saw me, my parents were in prison. Right. So my sisters and them had came home from prison, and they was, taking care of me.
They locked up the whole family.
The whole family, right. So eventually my sister Valerie came home first on her own recognizance, and then TC and Chucky. TC's my sister, Chucky's my brother. They came home. They went through trial, but I don't think they was convicted. That's how they came home.
Right.
Yeah. And my sister Tangi was convicted, but she didn't spend much time. She went to Alderson, Virginia, and when you do so much time in MCC, it's time served by the time you get to where you're going. But you still have to go there.
Yeah, while she's going through all the...
So she came home the next day, and my mother stayed. She was sentenced to 7 years for conspiracy. She did 4.5 years. And my dad was sentenced to...
Your mother did 4.5.
Yeah, my whole family.
Wow, is your mother still alive?
Yes, my mom is still alive.
Happy Mother's Day, Mrs. Myers.
Hi, Mommy.
You did 4 years. That's 48 months, and that's a very long time.
She did 4.5 years in, and then 4 months in the halfway house.
Right.
Yeah, so... She did her time. She was down at Alderson Federal Penitentiary. Back then, it was, a lot different. Prior to her being there, it was like a farm environment. Okay. So, I thank God that she was able to do her time in one place and in a nice place.
So, you got to think about it. As a 13-year-old child, right? Yeah. You're not an adult. Right. You're barely a teenager. Both of your parents, the family just gets torn apart. Yeah. Were you home when they came to the house?
I was home, yep. I was in the house laying in the bed. And
so the police come storming everybody out.
Yeah, well, they played the game. We had that ADT alarm system, so what they did was they put the alarm went off, and so every time our alarm go off, the police used to come and make sure we're okay.
Right.
So they knocked on the door and was like, "Your alarm is going off. Your alarm is going off at the precinct." Opened the door, so my mother ran downstairs and she, opened the door. She let them in, and then the next thing you just heard, boom, 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 and I heard my father say, "Don't open it," and it was too late. Right. And then I just laid there still, but when I opened my eyes, it was 4 white men standing over me with guns saying, "Don't move, don't move."
I know you never saw that before.
Yeah, I never saw that.
Crazy.
And then the sergeant, I think it was, that came to the door and was like, "That's a kid, that's a kid. Get out." And he kicked them all out, and he came over and asked was I all right.
Yeah. All right, so, they can't really do too much to the kids.
Yeah.
They have to be very careful how they, operate and, handle children.
It was clear that it was a child's room.
But what time was it? It
was 5 a.m. in the morning. Yeah, they went to everybody's house at 5 a.m.
Imagine that, 5 a.m. in the morning, you hit that knock on the door.
Just like that.
And they coming in. My house got raided, too.
Oh, really?
Oh. Yeah. My house got raided. Maybe, when I was in 1991, I think. 91 or 92.
Okay. Well,
I'll tell that story one day. I'm going to save that story. I'm going to tell it.
I would like to know.
Now you have to say it now.
Yeah. Well, this story, this interview is about you. We'll get into
but now
me
we
one day.
Know.
But I wasn't there at the time. But, I have experience, seeing or you know, my parents being escorted out, you know, of the place. So you know, that was that's difficult. And I was an adult.
I was an adult.
I was an adult at the time, so I can only imagine as a child having to see this.
Yeah.
You know, having to experience
30-some years later, you still remember. You know, I remember like it was yesterday.
But at the same time, I seen her. I knew her at that age, and I never knew.
Yeah. Well, I used to hide it. I used to hide it. You know, I used to always.
Well.
You know, people used to ask where were my parents. I used to say they were out of town. You know, my dad, he had these record labels in his fashion.
Did anybody in the school know?
Yeah, people knew.
The teachers knew.
I think some of the teachers knew. I knew the principal knew because during trial they ordered therapy for me. So I don't know if you remember high school, Miss Owens, the therapist.
I remember very
remember
little about that.
I ain't gonna go there. I digress. But yeah, she. So a few knew. Some didn't actually. Some teachers didn't know, but a few did. More of the guidance counselors and I believe the principal as well. And then, you know, I had people who are close to me, like Dana Stevens, who I call my cousin.
Dana Stevens, I remember him.
Most of my time, you know, most of my life.
Shout out to Dana.
Yeah, shout out to Dana. Love you, brother. So people like that, you know, they knew, you know, Nick, his real cousins, Nick and all of them, they knew because they're from Harlem and his father, rest in peace, Dickie, they knew. So, you know, there was some people who were living in Mount Vernon who was from Harlem. So like his mother, shout out Leslie, love you, sis.
Right.
Yeah.
That was they knew.
Yeah, but some people knew, and the people who lived in my neighborhood knew exactly.
Of course, because they
saw,
raided the crib, right.
So the people on East Lincoln Avenue, 7 that passed away recently. Daryl, he was a good friend of mine as well. He was somebody when it happened. He came and checked on me regularly. You know, he walked me to school, my first year of high school. You know, Nicole, Angie, all of those people from East Lincoln Ave. You know, LA crew.
Right.
They all knew because we all went to elementary school together too. I went to Our Lady of Mount Carmel on South 10th. So you know, when my family left, like when they got arrested, and I came back with my sisters. I left that school because it was just so much attention because it had the news. It was on. That's why I don't know why a lot of people didn't know it was on. You know, all of the newspapers.
I mean,
we were young back then.
Back
it was
then,
on Dateline.
Right, 13 years old. We wasn't really watching the news.
Maybe your parents knew. They probably, you know, didn't
and
want
they
y'all to
probably
play
said,
with me.
you know, right up the block or over there, or you know how the parents gossip back in the day.
Back in the day,
drive by your house and say, "Oh, it's right there. He lived right there."
We did it. We had a lot of that.
Didn't
After the
Sylvia
case,
live near you?
Yeah, she lived up the block for me. Felicia Rashad lived 2
Felicia
blocks
Rashad,
from me.
right? Sylvia.
We all lived in the same area.
That's right.
Sean Puffy Combs also lived up
For
the block
sure.
for me as well.
For sure.
So we all lived in that same area of, I call it the north part of the Bronx, right before Pelham off of East Lincoln.
Right.
So yeah, that was my area. So those
Stephanie
people in that
Mills
area,
lived up there
Stephanie
too.
Mills as well. Yes.
That's
yes. We
right.
used to see her often at the Gristedes and stuff. So yeah, that whole area, the people in that area knew, and they were really good to me. Though. I gotta tell you, they was very supportive.
Fidel was always fly back in the day. Now I know why. She was always fly, always.
I get that from my family. My family I come from a family of like fashion. You know, my dad was a very flashy guy.
Right.
My mom's interior decorator, so she loved that. And TC was best dressed in Harlem,
yes,
right?
TC
You know what I mean?
fly,
Every time she even makes her clothes now, she's a fashion stylist.
There you go.
So you know, she's known for dressing. That's her thing. She's
What's
got
up,
so
Vino?
many awards.
All right.
Shout out TC, my sister.
Shout
Love
out to
you.
TC.
She asked about you too. She told me to
did?
tell you hi.
You make sure you tell her I
did.
said hello.
I will for sure.
Yeah, I got this
For
little
sure.
gadget right here. You don't buy cheap stuff. You know what I'm saying?
You ordered that one online?
Oh no, I went to
It looks like a Five Below special.
Five Below.
Yes.
Oh wow!
Shout
I
out-
didn't even know they sold
Yo,
those.
shout out to
Five
Five
Below.
Below. That's what advertise
Five
for you real quick.
Below.
Five
Stacy,
Below, one of
you
my
have to
buy
favorite
3
stores.
at one time.
You go in there to spend
Hey, Michelle, I see you.
$5,
Shout
you end
out
up spending
Nicole.
$150.
I know,
Much
right?
love.
I don't like you, Five Below, for real.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
You know, on a different note, I just want to let you know this because a lot of people
Cool.
there's some scammers out there. You know, like I'm really still fresh. I'm really still fresh from incarceration
Really?
coming home.
How
Yeah.
long you been home?
I've been home almost 2 years.
Wow.
Right.
That is fresh.
Yeah, almost 2 years. So
you're doing good. Shout
Yeah.
out. Let's give
Yeah.
some
I'll give
bomb
myself
for
a
Dice.
shout out. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll give myself a shout out.
Yeah, and a bomb.
Drop a bomb on myself.
Yeah.
Right.
what's up.
But there's still certain things that I'm still experiencing. For instance, the Social Security called me today. Social Security. They called and said that I had a warrant for my arrest and I had to call this phone number right away.
Oh, that's a scam.
So I called the number. I'm like, wait, how do I got a warrant? What the hell is going on? I don't have no warrant. So I call the number and they said Social Security office.
I can't.
And I was like, yo, who is
Wait,
this?
we're not gonna identify what accent that
I
was.
said, is this the Social Security or where you located? So he gives me the address of the Social Security office. I said, that's the address. But where are you located? So I
Right,
can
right.
come
Oh,
see
by
you.
the way, yeah.
And you know what he said? Fuck you.
Oh,
That's
that's crazy.
That's what
It's
he
very
said.
real out here. I'm telling you.
He was scamming me.
Scam is real.
It's
Somebody just sent me an
serious out
inbox
there.
message
He was scamming
saying
me.
that they could help me get a loan,
Yeah.
and they hacked my friends. So I thought it was her.
It's crazy.
Before I answered that screenshot, I texted to her. I was like, "This you?" She said, "No, my account's been hacked." Thank God, because I had
Right.
already forwarded to Stacy, like, we get this grant for the nonprofit.
Right.
No
Right.
such
It's a
grant.
scam.
It was a scam.
It's a scam.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
and I said that because I was watching your dad, and one of the things your dad they was talking about right before he got started was like when the Vietnam War was over.
Right.
So when the Vietnam War was over, a lot of the soldiers came back addicted to heroin.
Right. Exactly.
And they was displaced. Some of them didn't have anywhere to go.
Right. Living on the streets.
And they was
no
living on the
jobs.
streets, and some of them spent all their money on drugs, and while others took to like a hustle.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Some
And-
was self-medicating and some was medicating with money,
and not to
They made
mention
money off of that, people being sick.
the stress
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
they came back with.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
Back to nothing.
Yeah, coming back to nothing, but coming back from killing.
Yeah.
Right.
They didn't know their enemy
Yeah.
that well.
Right.
They
Right.
that was Vietnam.
Right.
Vietnam was crazy.
I know. I was spent 14 years in the army, so I
Right.
studied,
Yeah.
all of the
So
wars
you
and
know.
things like that. So, when you're over there, no matter who they are, what they look like, what's their name, they're Charlie.
Charlie.
So
Yeah,
one shot,
Charlie.
one kill. That's what we
Shout
taught
out.
in the military. So
Yeah.
it's all the same, Charlie.
Yeah, shout out to
so then
Charlie.
you come back to
Charlie and C. Holly.
Yes,
Shout out
yes.
both of y'all.
So when you come back to the concrete jungle as opposed to the jungle in Vietnam,
Right.
you think everybody's Charlie and
Right.
everybody's out to get you. So
And-
there's a lot of mental illness that was undiagnosed and untreated.
And you come back with the expectations.
Right, thinking everybody owe you something
Yeah.
because of what you did for
fought
your country.
That's right.
Right, and people
Do
will.
you feel
The
like
government
that?
care less. Yeah, I to be honest with you, yeah, when I was stationed in Somalia and a few other places, for war services, but not in the war because of my MOS. I'm logistics, so I'm always in the rear with the gear in terms of helping
Okay.
out with supplies
right.
and stuff like that. But I saw a lot.
What does that mean?
MOS.
Oh,
yeah,
MOS.
MOS.
Oh, sorry, my
Yeah,
job,
yeah,
my
yeah.
job, my
Okay.
job.
Yes.
Military occupational skill
There you
was
go.
in logistics.
All right.
In logistics,
We
so
got it now, right? Yeah.
that was my job in the
There you
military.
go.
So, me doing that, I didn't see a lot in the field. Women are not infantry.
Yeah.
Well, they have some now.
Yeah, I've
but,
seen some
that's
now
something
that
that
wanna
I
be
wouldn't
on
do. But a lot of women have. But me being in, I had seen a lot, but not as much as a lot of people. And coming back here, it's a big adjustment. Just the environment alone and. Using the bathroom indoors and stuff like that.
Right.
You change, you adjust.
So with your dad having his state of mind as a hustler,
Mm-hmm.
being in Harlem at the time when the war was over,
Yeah.
seeing people come back strung out on heroin
Yeah.
that have habits,
Yeah.
he was opportunist. He said, he's seen a way.
He's seen a way to make a way.
Drug dealers they're funny. People talk about them because of what they're selling, but they're really businessmen,
Yeah.
and they have that mentality.
Yeah.
Right.
And he was one of the most businessmen you want to know in terms of you know, the drug game. My father had 2 record companies, you know, a shoe company, a carpet company. He had several LLCs in the family name. You know, that's the reason why I'm trying to, you know, maintain his legacy with the nonprofit and the LLC, F. Myers, and stuff like that. So these things that I'm doing is a lot of things that he's doing, but I'm doing it in the legal way. You know, but my dad did a lot of good. I know, you know, selling drugs in Harlem was a bad time. I seen pictures. I was there,
and he said the name of his drug was
Good and Plenty. That was the stamp on it,
because it was good and
it was plenty of it. He gave a lot. He gave a lot of the good stuff.
Oh, wow.
But he did a lot of good things. You know, he fed a lot of people. He paid for a lot of kids to go to college, and paid a lot of rent. He paid for a lot of funerals, and things like that. So you know,
you're never going to please everybody. For every one person that you said he did something good for, somebody's going to have the other side of the coin. So you know, he just did what he did at that time, and that's what it was.
Yeah, he saw a way to make a way for his family. You know, my dad was a family man. You know, he might have been out in those streets and everything like that. And,
we're not saying
and Papa was a Rolling Stone, but he came home every night.
Okay.
I can say that. My father came home every night. He had a system. He was very like routine, like I find myself. And I blame the military, but when I think about it, it could be him. He, you know, the way he did things, he did basically the same system, same routine every day.
Right.
And he came home the same time every night.
Yeah, he had a little. I also seen. I was watching. You know, they got these short films about these little documentaries, and I watched a few of them. You know, I had to watch a couple of them.
Yeah, I'm glad you did.
Right. So, one of his operational when he was selling drugs. You know, he said he would give a guy. He had the 2 red hats. You know, he said he would give that to your guy. My guy's gonna have on the same red hat, and when the 2 red hats meet each other, they'll exchange. As simple as that.
Very strategic.
Yeah, very strategic.
I mean,
exactly.
at that time.
For that time, and
for that time.
Yeah.
For that time, because this was we talking about in the early '80s or late. No, matter of fact, the '70s.
Right.
But,
and you know, to have $2 million at that time.
Right. Well, he was making $300 million a year at that time.
In the '70s, you know how much $1 million was? It was like you couldn't spend it.
Yeah.
You couldn't spend it all before you died.
Right.
That's true. If you watch a documentary, there's a gentleman in there who, you know, was in the game with my father. He said we used to borrow and lend each other $1 million just to get it out of our house because it was how do you hide, you know, $1 million in 5s and 10s, you know, and that's what it was back then because it was straight drug dealer.
Right now, there's a drug dealer somewhere going, that's right. For sure. Gotta put it over there. You gotta do this. You gotta do that.
Yeah, he had a very strategic ways about the way he did it. You know, how he would give it to them and then wait 28 days to pick it up. And that way they can make as much money as they want off of it, as well as he would make his set amount. And that way everybody ate. You know what I mean? And that's why everybody wanted to work for my father. And that's why his industry or empire, whatever you want to call it, grew so fast. It actually grew very rapid because of the way he did it.
Right.
You know, you wanted to work for New York Freddie Myers because he gave you the work. He trusted you. He came back 28 days later. Hopefully, you were smart enough to make some money of your own and just pay him his, and he was good with you.
28 days later.
Yeah.
He had a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Coming out in the movie.
Yeah, they're all coming out in the movie. Yeah.
Okay, and you wrote a book too, right?
So the book is finished as well as the documentary.
What's the name of the book?
The Fredell Myers story.
The Fredell Myers story, and they could pick that up now.
No, it's not ready yet. It's not quite.
But we're
ready.
shopping around.
We're shopping around the book as well as the movie, the New
Mm-hmm.
York Freddie Myers story. So that's completed as well as script. So we're shopping the script. We spoke to a few people. We met with a few people. No one's optioned the script yet.
Right.
So, you know, they're talking about optioning it, but it's just a waiting game right now.
Right. There will be a time.
But it's going to be represented properly, trust me.
The best deal, yes.
The best deal is going It's not only just the best deal, also I'm looking for someone who's going to represent the story. Someone who knows Harlem's going to represent, you know, the spirit of my father and the spirit of that whole Harlem gang.
Right, because your father was definitely a Harlem Knight.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
He was a Harlem Knight for sure.
For sure.
And,
he grew up right there in Foster Projects.
And those blocks that he was on, like those are...
It was hot back then.
Yeah. And, you know, even in the 80s, those blocks was
the
hot.
crack era too.
That's
It was
right.
Still popping.
114,
118th
115, 16,
Yeah.
17, 18 streets to this day.
Yep.
Yeah, I was just
true.
over there. I was just recently over there. Just
Really?
recently.
Yeah, we
Mhm.
just had.
I was there this weekend.
Yeah,
Matter of
yeah.
fact, I was there this weekend. I was on 119th Street.
Wow. Yeah.
I'm always over there,
Right.
Family. I still have a lot of family in Harlem.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to my family in Harlem. Hopefully you guys are listening.
Right,
Love y'all.
for sure. For
Hey
sure.
TC, I love you.
Fredell, and so
My sister.
TC is there.
She's on
Shout out to
mine.
give TC
Yeah.
a round of applause for
She was
TC.
a
That's the
woman.
fashion icon right
Oh
there in
my
Harlem.
gosh, she's so
Let me tell you
talented.
something. She got so many awards for best dress. Her and my father.
Oh yeah.
I think they was competing back in the day. I'm serious, man. I'm very unassuming. I think I'm not flashy. Back then I was dicey when you say I used to
Right.
be flashy. But I think that was because my family bought my clothes.
Right.
Excuse me, my family bought my clothes back then.
Yeah.
But me right now, I'm very unassuming in terms of the Myers family because even my nieces and nephews, they're fly. You know?
Okay. All right. So speaking about your family purchase your clothes, so I did see in part of the documentary when you was talking about the pool table was filled with money
Yeah.
all the way up to the steps.
Yeah.
And then Dad gets arrested. They come in the house. Do they find the money too?
Yeah, I mean they took a lot of things. It was
'Cause
what they
sometimes
report was $3.2 million in the attic, 10,000 in the safe, $500,000 and here and there. I forgot different places of the house, but all together it was more than what they said they took. They
Of
said
course.
they took it like altogether maybe $5 million
And then
all
bonuses.
collected, but it was like
Absolutely,
really $500 million.
yes.
Yeah, the
Right.
police
Yeah,
took
yeah.
their
Yeah, of course.
bonuses, but yeah, our attic was full of cash and suitcases and stuff like that, and into the walls and into the furniture. So I used to sit on like the little play couch, and I
Right.
didn't know it was stuffed with money.
I
stuff
shit on
like
it.
that.
I shit on $10,000 talking about.
So yeah, it was
Crazy.
crazy. I didn't know, but I knew, like a lot of kids say, I didn't know my father was a drug dealer.
Right.
I knew my father was a drug
You
dealer.
did.
Yeah, because I was a smart
He-
kid.
he tried
not
to hide
to
it
pop
from
my
you.
collar, but I was a smart
He
kid.
tried to hide it.
Yeah, he did.
Hide his
By any
filthy
means
affairs.
necessary. But I was bad. I was sneaky. I would pop in the room and I would see certain things and hear conversations. And like I said, my father used to bring suitcases of money home. And empty them on the pool table, and I would hide at the top of the steps and look down, and he would give me money just to go away, like a whole stack of money just to go play.
Dad was a shooter too, because Dad said,
yeah.
I'm about to pop his ass. He was talking about the documentary. He was talking
Yeah,
about
it's real calm about it.
yeah,
right?
Nicky Barnes.
Yeah. Oh God.
No, he was
Not
talking
Nicky
about.
Barnes.
He was talking about. Was it Nicky Barnes or
Lucas.
Frank Lucas?
Yeah, they don't. They didn't.
Yeah, he was
they had
talking about
some-
Frank Lucas. You got to
some
check out the
words.
documentaries.
Yeah.
You know,
Y'all should.
New York Freddie Myers. You could check them out. Some of the documentaries
It's called Kingpin.
on YouTube, and
The Freddie
Fredell,
Myers story.
They got one coming out in the near future.
Yeah.
It's gonna be dope. You see it? Got it up there.
Kingpin.
There you go. The Freddie Myers story. He give it up too. He's a good speaker. And so he did. How much time did he do in jail?
He did. Back then, I don't know if you know about the 848 count. So
Of course,
that's why
848.
they arrested
Kingpin.
everybody. Yeah, kingpin status. So that's why they arrested so many people. You have to have 7 to 8 people to get that thing. So he ended up with that and tax evasion. There was no drugs in our case.
Okay.
All money and
Well,
M16 guns.
yeah.
But with the, we
Being
were under
boss
investigation
status.
for
Boss
100.
status.
For 15 months. So they seen a lot. But he was sentenced 70 years altogether, 30 and then 40, and they ran him concurrent, and then you do the higher numbers. So ended up sentenced 40 years. He did 24 and a half and 6 months in the halfway house.
Wow.
So about 25 years altogether.
They-
Ain't nobody got time for that. 24 years in prison.
24 years.
How long were you away?
I was 18 years. I know how it is.
My God.
I mean, I know.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
total, the time spent, my total time spent in prison was. Do we have a drum roll in here?
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
I don't even want to say. No, that ain't a
That's
drum
not
roll.
a drum roll. That's like Woody Woodpecker.
Oh,
Give us a
man.
punch.
But it was like 25 years. 24
years.
and some months close to
Gunshots.
25. Yeah,
Wow.
that is a
That's-
gunshot. Where's a gunshot at?
God
There you go.
bless. Yeah, right? What's going on?
Yeah.
This-
That's a lot of
this
time.
is-
And
this
I
is-
didn't know you to be that nice. I guess we were so young, and I left Mount Vernon like 30-something years ago.
Well,
so I didn't know you to be someone who would be in trouble with the law when we were younger. That was a long
I
time
hide
ago.
my filthy affairs.
Is that what it was?
Of course.
I didn't see it. I
Right,
didn't know.
nobody
Yeah.
did. Nobody
really?
saw it.
Okay.
Nobody really saw it.
'Cause, yeah.
When I talk about my story is that we lived in the same neighborhood.
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
much.
we did.
I lived down the block and up the
yeah.
block,
Mm-hmm.
and back then, like I say this all the time. Both of my parents lived there.
Yeah.
My sisters, lived there,
Yeah.
and my dad came home every day.
Right.
We had dinner. My mother cooked dinner.
That's the dice I know.
We always had Fruity Pebbles and milk.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
And-
You had
and-
peanut butter and jelly,
and jelly.
ham
Yeah.
and cheese.
And chocolate, and you want it quick.
Right, real
Right,
chocolate.
So when I had my friends, because there was a lot of white people lived around my neighborhood, which
Right.
it wasn't bad because some of them was real cool. But at the very beginning, they used to talk
Do
about
you
me.
remember that?
Yes, you
A lot of
remember
people
that
don't
too.
remember that about Mount Vernon.
Right.
We used to ride our bikes through Pelham, and they used to call
Right.
us the N-word. Do you
Yeah,
remember that?
we definitely used to get
That's crazy.
Mhm.
tatted up with all
Yeah.
type of words like that.
I'm that Mount Vernon old.
Right, me too. So I kind of made my way to the south side,
Just like me.
and like they would like me.
Mm-hmm.
These are my people right here. They look like me. They act like me. I don't
Oh,
have to
God,
explain
that's-
it. They
we
know
got
what
that
I'm
in
talking
common.
about.
Mm-hmm.
But check it out. A lot of times they didn't have peanut butter and jelly,
Jelly, yeah.
or Fruity Pebbles and milk.
Right.
So to come, and not to mention both parents,
Both of us, yeah.
moms is cooking,
Yeah,
living in the
You
house.
had to go home for dinner
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah, so
yeah.
when I invite them to the house, they see the house, and then they
Yeah.
look at me different.
Yeah. That's crazy.
I experienced that a
like
lot.
I'm Carlton from Will Smith, Bel Air, Fresh Prince.
Yes.
So, to make the long story short, I did a lot of things to show them that I was just like them.
Mm-hmm.
So, when it was time to act out, I did the craziest.
Right, right.
Sound like me.
Just to prove
Yes,
something.
yes,
Right.
yes.
A lot of people are trying to prove something.
Yeah.
But you gotta keep in mind who's your audience.
Exactly.
Remember who's your audience. Because your audience is not your friends all the time.
Right, and they don't determine your future because
Right.
I did the same thing. I didn't, that house for me was a reminder of what happened. And I love my friends on East League and LA crew, but I started hanging out more so on the South Side, my whole crew over there, Lizzie, everybody. And it was the same thing for me. Like, if y'all did something bad, I'm going to do it bad to show y'all that I'm not Carlton.
Right.
You know what I mean? I always had to felt like I've always had to prove myself. So I was always, doing things that, I wouldn't normally do. Even though
sure.
I was from Harlem, but I was still young back then. So I didn't, I learned a lot. That's why I say Mount Vernon nurtured me and it fed me because, and that's why I'm coming back to
Right.
give back. And
Sure.
that's, bring us around to Invisible Child.
That's dope.
That's what I
dope.
want to do with Invisible Child, come back, bring services for the children affected by incarceration. I want to provide bus services for them. I want to provide mentoring as well as scholarship funds and things like that. I'm having a function on June 29th in Harlem. It's called What About the Children?
Okay.
Yeah, so it's going to be like fun day in the park, face painting, photo booths, water balloon fights, tug of war, double dutch competition. I got celebrity DJs.
Yes.
We got some
Alright.
celebrities coming through to take pictures with the kids and things like
That's
that.
dope.
So it's going to be, really nice. And it's something, just all the benefits to children, all the benefits go to children of incarcerated parents. It's not no money to, charge, but we have vendors
Right.
that we want, come out and rent tables and things like that. And
Oh, so you're gonna have
we'll have
vendors
some
there?
vendors,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
So
Oh, that's dope. Y'all
any
listening?
vendors that are interested,
Tamika, are you listening?
Send me an email or go to the website.
Yeah.
Please let them.
Stacy Peterson, that's Peterson.
This is the email
No, hold
for.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're interested in being a vendor, Stacy Peterson. So it's Stacy STACEY .Peterson. Peterson is PETERSEN at the Zeiss Group. So that is
Alright.
Go ahead.
THEZICE and the word group.com.
Give it to him one more time
Yes.
because this.
Or you can
I
go
know a lot
to-
of vendors.
Yes.
I
Okay.
know
So
I'm going to post a flyer right after this. So on the
Or-
flyer
yes.
to show you what number to call as well as what email to go to
Right.
become a vendor or be a sponsor and come down and hang out. If you have any questions, just give us a
Yeah.
ring. We want everybody to come. Our first event was in Mount Vernon, the comedy show.
Yes.
You know, I had to
Great
take it back
success.
home for the first one. Now the second one is in my first home, which is Harlem. And, you know, I'm going to keep doing some things. I'm planning on working with a few people from Mount Vernon to do some things to give back.
That's dope.
Make it better.
That's
On the
dope.
website,
Yeah.
too.
On the website.
InvisibleChildNY.org. Or you can send us a message on Invisible Child
So-
on
Instagram.
Instagram
Yeah,
or
Invisible
Facebook.
Child, New
yes.
York.
So do you need volunteers or?
Absolutely.
Yes, yes.
Right, 'cause-
Absolutely. Yes.
Volunteers. Y'all want to come down and set up your radio station drop? And
I know a lot of guys that were incarcerated that's coming home now, and
Yeah.
they love to give back. They love to come out
Awesome.
and support
Yeah,
events
send a
like
message. There's so many different
Yeah.
things and
Definitely.
programs to help out with. So
Right.
absolutely.
I'm gonna
Shout out to my boy Vino.
Shout out Vino.
contact
Vino
us,
just came home.
Yeah.
Vino just came home.
Blessings.
Vino,
man.
yeah.
Shout out to
Okay.
Vino. He just came home. My boy K just came home too. K.
Blessings.
Congrats, yes.
PK just came home.
PK.
All
Yeah,
right.
PK
yes.
is he's gonna be on the show. He's a very
Okay.
interesting dude. And there's a lot. I know a lot of brothers that be willing to donate their time.
Good.
Give them
To
my
help.
information,
Will
you know,
do.
and
Yes.
I'm going to also forward you the flyer and post it on your wall. Hopefully,
I will
Yes.
for
you
sure.
know, they would like to come out. It's going to be big. It's going to be epic, you know. Also, June 14th, my sister TC and I are having a birthday party at Harlem Miss.
Okay,
We
I'm
want
there.
everybody to come out. We want to
I'm
make
there.
it a movie out there as well.
I'm there.
Yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. June 14th, which is a Friday. And then, Chala Dana from Mount Vernon.
Inshallah.
Yeah, he's got me on the flyer for June 7th at Mingles.
Yes.
A Gemini party joint and what's that, Boston Post Road, I think it is.
Yes.
Mingles
in the
will come
Bronx.
out.
Mingles
Shout
in the
out
Bronx,
Dana.
Yes.
Oh, Chala got a party.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, Mingles. That's on
Mingles.
Boston Road.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
I'm on
the
the flyer
Bronx.
for that. Come out and
Okay.
celebrate
Gemini
my birthday
season,
with me.
yeah.
Oh, Gemini season.
Gemini
Yeah.
season.
Chala throwing a lot of parties over there.
Yeah,
Shout out to
yeah,
Chala.
definitely.
Yeah, he put me on a flyer for a party, but I couldn't make it.
Oh, Dice. You
Yeah.
can't do our homie Chala like
I'll
that. He
get
from
back
my
to you,
hometown.
Chala. I'll
man.
get back to Chala.
Wow.
Chala, my boy. He's a
Disappointed.
good dude. He hustle hard.
That's
He
why
is a
things
good guy.
happen.
I've
when
known
you're-
Chala as long as I've known you.
Right.
So, when you said come, I'm going to come. When Chala said come, I'm
What's the
going.
name of his clothing line? Let's shout it out.
Multi Hustle.
Multi Hustler.
Oh,
Shout out
yes.
to
Black
Multi
Boy
Hustler. Gonna
Entertainment.
drop a bomb on that.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah.
I seen him with a Multi Hustler UPS uniform on.
What?
Yeah, he had the Multi Hustler on the UPS.
On the UPS? Wow.
Yes,
Shout out.
out doing it
Fashion
behind
designer.
Yeah, that's
Shout
what's
out
up.
Original Don
Original Don
Clothing.
Don Wilson.
Don
Shout
Wait,
out.
Wilson.
hold on. Let's silence this right now. Wait. Hold on. Let's get back to that. What's the name of the clothing line first? Let's
And
shout
I
it out.
have one for you.
Okay, all
right.
right.
So, Original Don Clothing.
This
Huge
Original Don.
fashion show coming up. Clothing is amazing. Yes. Shout out
Yes,
D-Don.
yes.
D-Don is just, he's really
D-Don
supporting
Wilson,
the
he's a
Who is
Very
it?
talented young
D-Don.
man.
You can have him on your show. He's a smart guy. He's got a story, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dion.
D-Don. D-Don.
D Don. Was
Yes.
he at the comedy show
Yes,
as
he
well?
was. Yeah. He was there.
I think raffled off one
Yeah.
of his tracksuits.
Yeah.
Okay.
mhm.
Yeah, so
Right.
that was
For the
D-Don.
cause. Yep.
He was out there with #1 soldier, Boom. Shout out to Boom.
Shout out Boob.
Okay. All right. So
Yeah.
D Don.
Yeah.
And what's the name of the clothing line again?
Original Don Clothing.
Original Don Clothing. And you said you got one for who?
For you.
She said it on
yes.
the air too. You heard that, yo.
Yeah.
You are
Everybody heard
VIP.
it.
We made sure.
Everybody heard that, right?
Yes.
No doubt. We got you
Yes.
guys.
And I want to introduce you. There's some ladies that's going to be coming to my show
Mm-hmm.
next week.
Okay.
Right, next Monday, I'm going to have these ladies from Life After the Feds. They shoot a docu-series. They're from California. And their docu-series is going to be big. Like, it's going to be like Love and Hip Hop-ish. But
Nice.
it's about these women that come out of the federal penitentiary and getting their life together. And, some are, some are not.
Yeah.
But it's the story behind it and the
Yeah.
message.
Sounds good.
And
They
I
were
wa-
in Alderson?
Hmm?
They were in Alderson?
What is that?
Alderson Federal Penitentiary? That's what my father was.
Well,
That's
I
where
don't
you said
really
most
know.
of the women.
Yeah.
Martha Stewart was there as well.
Oh yeah, Martha
Yeah.
Stewart, right? When she
Yeah.
did her time there, that was like,
Yeah.
If Martha Stewart was there,
Yeah, she had the same job my mother had in the garment factory.
really,
That's
Yep.
crazy.
How crazy is
is
that?
your mother's still alive? You said that. We shouted her mother
Yeah,
out.
my mom is the best. It's the air in
Right.
my lungs. I breathe her.
Okay, that's
My
dope.
best
Shout out to
friend.
Mrs. Myers.
Yeah.
Are you related to Hev by any chance?
No, everybody say that. And we used to live so close, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hev name.
Yeah, we all
Heavy
lived
D
in the
name
same
was
area.
Dwight Myers, right?
Dwight Myers, yeah. I think he's
Right.
MEY, though. I'm MY. I'm not
NY.
sure how to spell
All
his
right.
name. Yeah, but we used to get his mail. He used to get our mail.
Really? That's
Yeah.
crazy.
You know, in that whole area over there. So, yeah, it's a small world.
They found machine guns in your pop's house too.
Yeah, M16 rifles,
It's crazy.
Back in the
29 mink
back
coats.
in '83.
Yeah,
Machine
$500,000
guns?
worth of jewelry.
It was
I-
serious.
The mink
M16s.
coats. The mink coats. I seen him talking to the mink guy.
Yeah.
You know, he was talking to the furrier,
Dimitri,
and he was
yeah.
telling him, "Yeah, I remember I came and bought everything you had."
Yep. I used to do that. At 6 years old, I had a mink outfit. I'm gonna
Right.
post that on Throwback Thursday.
Wow.
A little mink skirt and
You hear
jacket.
that?
Right?
I have-
Say
6 years
that.
I had
old.
5 Rolexes before they came and took all of them.
Really?
Crazy.
And I was 12 when they came.
So they took your stuff too. They took
They took my jewelry, not my clothes.
right.
They did leave my mink outfit, and they left a couple of my mink coats because they were in my closet.
Right.
So the things that were in my closet that belonged to me stayed, but there were things that were minks of mine and other kind of furs that we had a fur closet, which
Okay.
was made of cedar. So that's where generally all of the fur coats were kept.
Oh, in the
So,
house.
yeah. So even my sisters were in there as
What
well.
did this house look like? Just describe
You
this
lived
house.
not too far from me.
I
205
never-
Bradley was a
I-
35-room mini mansion.
35 rooms.
Yeah.
Mini
First of all,
mansion.
35
She said
rooms.
mini
Because
mansion.
it was 35 rooms. Yeah.
In Mount Vernon.
Across
Vernon.
the street
35
from
rooms.
on East Lincoln Avenue. Up the
Right.
block from
I know where it
old
was
Milking
at.
Thing.
I know
our
where.
Milking Thing's old.
I
Mount
know.
Vernon. I forgot about Milking
listen,
Things.
I know where the house was at, but
Yeah.
inside the house,
Yes.
like
You ever been inside?
1983. Did you have like sleepovers and people? sleeping?
No, the year before we moved, we had a big party, but people in my neighborhood always came over. Like
Right. Did you have
young ladies
cameras
after
in front of
school.
the house?
Yeah, we had.
Of course.
Of
No, we
course.
only had one. There wasn't a lot back then. They didn't have that so
Right.
much. So
Well, you had a
after the
machine
case,
gun in
we
there.
put
$2
one.
million. You might not need a camera.
Yeah, but we had
Right.
the professional pool in the backyard. So what I never really swam in my pool because I always wanted to hang out, south side.
And
I
the
hung
other
out the
pool was
projects
around
a
the
lot.
corner from you.
Yeah, and Wilson Woods was down the block, and I hung out at Ebony Gardens. So my friends would go to my house and swim when I wasn't there.
Right.
Because I would be hanging out on the other side of town and stuff like that. Like I was much like you. That's why when you was telling your story, I was definitely feeling you on that.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely was the same way.
They asked me what's the topic, and we're talking about Fredell Myers. We're talking about the Invisible Child Organization and the upcoming. What is it? Is it a book or is it?
We have right now my
It's
book
a movie on your dad.
on my dad. Yeah, the Freddie Myers story.
The New York Freddie Myers story.
Right, and
about
then
the
I have a
drug kingpin.
documentary.
She
That's
has
the
a
Fredell
documentary
Myers story, and it's
coming
talking
out.
about children of incarcerated parents and my experience specifically, and growing up in the family that I grew up in, and
And how
dealing
it
with mental
affected you.
illness as well.
Right.
So my book is definitely touching.
Mental illness?
Yeah, because the childhood trauma causes you to have abandonment issues,
Mm-hmm.
separation anxiety, PTSD, which I was diagnosed with as well.
You was going to see your dad though, right?
Yeah, I was going to see my dad,
As
but
matter
a
of
lot
fact,
of
we got
times,
a picture of you, and tell me about
Yeah.
this picture of with you and your dad in
yes,
the penitentiary.
my
You giving
sister
him a kiss or
TC
something?
and my other sisters, they used to take me to see my dad in prison and stuff like that. And so that's a picture of my sister and I visited my father at Lewisburg Penitentiary in Pennsylvania.
Oh, Lewisburg.
FCC, Federal Correctional Center.
Wait. No, that was a penitentiary.
That's penitentiary. That's not
Yeah.
FCC.
Lewisburg
Yeah,
is
that's
a penitentiary. Lewisburg is
Yeah.
a penitentiary.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that's where we were in that picture. That's TC in the red pants, and that's me dressed in khaki like my dad.
The funny thing is that, I was in this system too.
You was in the same place,
yeah?
probably a different time.
Oh, definitely a different time.
Yeah,
But I was in this system. He's in the federal penitentiary there.
yeah.
I was in a couple of those.
Yeah.
And then he also the first time he went to prison, he went to a prison called Eastern in Napanock, they said.
Oh, you heard about that? Yeah, my
Yeah.
mother tells me
Yeah,
about
I was
that.
there
I
too. Mm-hmm.
was a baby, and is that the one? I think it was one that he used to. My mother used to take him on a helicopter.
And I
to go
can
visit
imagine
him.
if he was in Napanock in the prison Eastern,
Mm-hmm.
if he was in that prison in 1970, I think he said 73.
Yeah, yep.
I could imagine.
That's when I was 2 years
I
old.
just
My
could
mom used to take
imagine
me.
how that prison, like for people that know,
Old school.
for people that know that been there like myself, they know that that's was the best place to do time if you had to do time. The absolute best place if you had to do your time.
Wow.
Yeah.
You wanted to do it there. They called it Happy Nap.
Oh, okay.
It was in
Okay.
Nabanock, New York, and they call it Happy Nap.
Wow.
And this was in 2001 to 2000, maybe 14. They was calling it Happy Nap.
Wow.
So I could imagine
Wow.
in
It was like that.
1973,
Yeah, back when they was
your
allowed
father
to
wasn't
smoke
even locked
cigarettes and
up.
Things like
Right,
that.
right. He was chilling.
He was
He
running
was-
it back then.
he wasn't even locked up back then. They
Wow.
sent him there. He was
Yeah.
all right.
I'm sure he was. My father was always all right in prison. He was a good guy, you know. So he had a lot of respect in the way he went down. You know, at that time, Giuliani was taking down all
Right.
of the kingpins in
Right.
Harlem, and most of them, if not all of them, besides my father, snitched. You know, to get less time in prison.
they had a whole bunch
and
of
my
them
father
around that time.
refused to. He did all of his time. So he was an honorable man. He stood up, and a lot of people respect him for that. So in prison, that's like money.
They clean up the streets.
That's
around
like
that
money, you know.
Right.
So he was good in there, and they treated him bad sometimes because he was a Muslim man. So you know he wouldn't eat a lot of things and stuff like that. And when the Million Man March took place, he wanted to stand up in there and watch it. You know, just stand in solidarity with the men that were out there, and they gave him a hard time. They beat him real bad and stuff like that. He did some time in the hole. So he did some hard time, but he had a lot of respect. People were loyal to him because he was loyal to the game and the
Right.
way he went about it and did his time without, you know, snitching and everything like
That's
that.
dope. That's dope.
Yeah,
For
Giuliani
anybody-
was taking down everybody back then.
Yeah, they got Boy George. They got your pops. They got Wagner Projects. They cleaned. They was cleaning up Harlem.
And let me
Yeah,
tell
big
you,
time.
I ended up joining the military. So, you know, Giuliani was our district attorney on our case.
Wow.
So he was cleaning up all of the drug dealers, Nicky Barth,
You remember
all
your
of them,
name?
right? Nope, I was not ground zero. We was at Pier 94, and I was guarding him. I was assigned to be security for him, and I was sitting right next. Well, he was sitting, I was standing,
Talk about it.
and I just looked at him like.
How crazy is that, right?
Put my father in jail, the whole family in jail, you know. But I did, you know, I just did my job, and now he's the president's attorney.
Okay.
So he did what he had to do to climb the ladder.
For sure. For
So
sure.
he definitely, you know,
For
he
sure.
started early. in the 80s.
Steadfast.
And now look at him.
Steadfast.
The president,
That's what he wanted to do. That's
Donald Trump's attorney,
Mhm.
put my father in prison. My family, I should say, in prison.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they actually. I'm just playing devil's advocate here, but they actually did their job. Your father got away for a long time,
Yeah.
and then he got caught for selling drugs.
Yeah.
Because you can't really
Well, when
selling drugs is
with the
illegal.
movie, you're going to see that he actually didn't do his job very well. You know, a lot of it was fabricated, a lot
Oh,
of
of course.
entrapment.
Yes.
In the movie, y'all going to see a lot more the other side of everything.
But that's
you know?
that's part of the system now.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
part of it.
Yep, yep.
It's catch me if you can on
Right.
both sides.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
true.
On both sides.
Exactly.
So, but this is a good reason and motivation
Yeah.
for you to support the cause that you're supporting now
Exactly.
with this organization.
The reason why I'm doing this is because I want to help the children that were affected by, like myself. Like you said, I walked around smiling all that time, but I was hiding a lot of pain
Right.
and anguish and things like that. Imagine your mother and father being there every day, and flash of an eye, your life just changes like that.
Right.
And going to Mount Vernon High School is a very family-oriented town back then.
Right.
So parent-teacher conference. My parents were never there. I would
And
lie.
Mount
and
Vernon
say
was
it
so
fine.
small.
It was so small. Everybody knew your business.
4 square miles.
4 square miles. And, it was, I had to, sign parental forms to go on trips and, sign my mother's name and things like that. I lied. My mother did make it home in time for me to see me graduate. I thank God for that. But, I used to say, oh, my parents is away. And then when I would go and visit them and miss school, I would say, oh, I have to go on a business trip with my mom. I have to go on and I was actually, visiting my family. But what I've noticed is that a lot of children in the prisons, children not affected by the prison system, don't have money to go
Okay.
visit their parents. So if it's a situation like mine where they're in the federal penitentiary, your parents can be shipped anywhere. You can be Lexington, Kentucky, you can be here, there, Pennsylvania, California, all over the world. And that's expensive. That's airfare. The state penitentiaries, you can get the bus rides, the Greyhound, the train, and all of that. But what I want to do is now make it affordable. We'll give money to these children that apply to Visible Child. They qualify. They have parents in federal penitentiary, and they need airfare. They
Just
need
federal
hotel
penitentiary?
fare.
Just for the
No,
federal?
no, all
Any-
prisons, all
okay.
prisons. To help for transportation. So it's important that children maintain relationships with their parents when they're in prison.
But these
and things
children,
like
they
that.
can't go alone.
No, usually they're left home with the foster care parent, or
Okay.
like for example, me, I was home with family, and I thank God that was, a blessing. But a lot of people are sent to foster care.
Okay.
Some people are sent to family that are not good to them, so we want to give money to the host families
Right.
for holidays and birthdays. to
Would,
make sure
would,
the
a,
children-
would a child that has one parent incarcerated
Yes, of
qualify,
course, of
and
course.
and the other
Yes.
parent can bring them up?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Whoever the baby's left with, there's services needed, because we live in a society now where there's two-parent household income, two-parent income needed in the household. So
so you're gonna provide like the transportation,
transportation. So if it's airfare, if it's trade fare,
wow,
stuff like
or
that,
bus fare.
bus fare, stuff like that. So yeah, for the state, it's
Okay.
going to be more so bus. Because they're going as far as how far the jails go, Oneonta, Buffalo, all that, right?
Right.
So, yeah, for the state ones, it'll be like that. For the federal, if they're not at Fort Dix or at Lewisburg,
Right.
it would be a flight. But
Right,
you
it
could
would
drive
definitely be
to
a flight.
Lewisburg, because my sister used to drive me to Lewisburg.
Yeah, because like you said, the
Yeah.
federal federal government
So
send you
far.
anyway.
Yeah, my mother was
Put
in
you
West
on a plane.
Virginia.
That's
Right.
crazy.
So, we had to fly
West Virginia.
to West
Where the hell
Virginia
is
and
West
stay in a
Virginia?
hotel to visit with her.
She's
Yeah,
in
West
Rice.
Virginia.
That's
Where there's
crazy.
about a few black people. Oh God, I can't tell it. My manager would kill me. But it's an interesting story that happened when we were visiting. But it's
We'll save that for later. Thank you.
yeah.
Oh, you can't tell
She'll
that
kill
story?
me if I tell it.
No.
But something happened with our
Oh,
sisters
yeah,
and
you
I.
gotta tell that story. Yeah.
Unfortunately, no.
But it was just it's just to show you how racist this place was, and the
Oh,
type
don't I
of
know
town that this jail was in.
Right.
So
I bet,
But
I
it's
bet.
so good, so I can't wait to
the-
get it, to release it, but not now.
Rodney was here. Rodney Skinner that was here.
Hi,
not
Rodney
too long
Skinner.
ago. He would tell you that it's like all of these jails are way upstate or
Yeah.
in the boondocks.
Yeah.
And you could stand like in the middle and you could throw a rock over here and throw a rock over there, and that's where they build these jails.
It's like
at.
that for the state too, huh?
Yeah, for the state.
Wow.
They're like
Okay.
right.
See, I've been to the federal prisons to visit my family.
The
but
federal
not so
prison
much
is a
the
little
state.
different, but they're
Yeah.
also in. They put them in these rural communities, right? And these prisons create communities because the prisons, they provide jobs. And then they
Right.
build around the prison
Yeah.
because the people that's coming to the prison are gonna buy, this
Hotels and
Hotels.
stores and restaurants. And,
and right,
Yeah,
exactly. Like, cause I was in, like, just say Napanock,
Yeah.
that prison right there in Napanock. Like, who's heard of Napanock?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's right in the middle of Napanock, New York. And now they have Walmart, and they,
now they got a whole.
That's crazy.
That's like Otisville is in Ossining, right? So that whole area is nice.
yeah,
It's all built
Otisville.
up.
No, oh, you mean Sing Sing is in Ossining?
Is that what it is? Oh, Sing
Yeah,
is in
Sing
Ossining?
Sing is in Ossining, and that's far.
Oh, okay.
That's not very close. It's the closest one.
Otisville is that federal?
They have two. They have
Too.
a federal.
My father was at the federal.
They
one.
had the federal one and the state one, and then right next.
So
to
is that
each other.
Sing Sing that's in Ossining? But that whole town is really nice around
Yeah,
it. Yeah,
right, 'cause,
that's
you
where
know,
my father lived before he passed away.
The,
was
the
Ossining.
prisons create, community. They create the community.
Yeah.
They build the prison there, and then the community is created around it.
Yeah,
crazy.
that's what I noticed, because it provides jobs and stuff like that.
Right.
And all the people who couldn't get jobs become correction officers.
Gerrymandering. There's a lot going on with the prison.
Yeah.
It's business.
It's a bit, oh yeah,
They call
I
it,
read an article about that a couple of weeks ago. Actually, I
Right.
kind of reposted it too, part of it, about they don't want inmates to vote because that would affect prison reform.
Right. Oh,
So it's a whole big thing.
But they
Like
gave
this
us-
whole campaign, we're going to be fighting.
They gave us our
Daily.
voting rights.
Huh?
They gave us our voting rights, so they gave it to
Yeah,
us.
They did
Yeah.
it, but they didn't want to.
Right. It's crazy, but it's just your cause is motivated by your experience.
Yes, that's the most
And-
important. Yeah.
And it's good that
My passion.
you talk about it now,
Yeah.
because you wasn't really talking about it before. And you can imagine how many kids that's going through something that's afraid to speak or too embarrassed to speak, don't want to be judged and things of that nature, and just hiding, how
Like
they
I
really
did.
feel. Exactly.
I mean, from a child, from hanging out back in the day, the Heights,
Mm-hmm.
and going to South Side. To me, I was a member of Allen Memorial Church, and nobody in the church knew. Few people might have known because
Nobody
they was from the
knows.
hood. But I don't even think my former pastor knew. If he did, he probably heard part rumor, and I worked at the
Right.
church as one of the administrators. So I was just that secret with it because I was, you know, embarrassed of it, to be honest with you. And I went to college. No one in my college knew. No one I was in the military with. So if y'all watching this now, y'all know.
Right.
But my dad's documentary came out in 2006. So a lot
And
of
you
people
was in
saw
it.
it. Yeah. So, you know, at the time I was working, you know, homeless population, and I walked into my office.
She works in the homeless
Yeah, I'm a case
population.
manager.
Porky.
I definitely love working in social services and giving back. I like jobs that make me feel like at the end of the day I did something. I helped
Right.
somebody.
Okay.
You know, and that's why I'm starting an organization to help people. But, you know,
How was
I
that
walked into the
homeless
office.
shelter? How
It was
was that?
cool, you know. The video showed and the magazine came out, I walked in the office. They was like, "You was on, I saw you." And I was like, "Oh, man, I got to quit this job."
Yeah.
But you know what? I said, I'm going to answer the questions, and that's it.
Right.
And that's what I did. I answered everybody's questions, and nobody wanted to talk about it anymore.
Right.
So it was good. But I also got to meet people who was affected by the same thing I was affected by.
For
and they
sure.
hit it the whole time I was at that job. And they pulled me aside a little later on and was like, "I just want to share with you."
If people
yeah.
would just talk more
Yeah.
about what they're going through,
We can
they
help
would
you
realize
heal.
that, not only would they start healing, but they would realize that somebody is going through the same thing.
Yeah.
Somebody right next to you.
Yes.
Right.
Somebody in your church, somebody at your job,
Yeah.
somebody is going
Do
through
it.
something similar or has been through it
Right.
and perhaps can help you. Your answer could be right in the room.
Somebody we grew up with, you was at my first fundraiser, Comedy for a Cause at the Steam House, right?
Yes.
After it was all over, somebody that I grew up with, I'm not going to say their name, came over to me and was like, "Fredell, you remember me?" I was like, "Yeah," you know, and I said her name. She's like, "I didn't think you were going to remember me. I came out and I wanted to talk to you because when you was growing up as a child as incarcerated parent, I was too."
You see
And you
that?
would have, I'm not going to tell her name, and I would never do that.
We
But
know
if
who
you
you
was
are.
to see her, you would never think. I mean, I'm talking about a prime leader in our community.
I know who
a
she is.
beautiful spirited woman. No, I know who you're thinking. It's not the young lady that was on the mic. Nah, she was very quiet in the background, but very unassuming like myself. And I thank God for that. It brought tears to my eyes. I
Right.
tell you. And I told her we all got to tell our stories. These stories need to be told so that it don't have to be told anymore. We don't have to sit around and say how we hid and we were scared and we dealt with these childhood traumas and these things
And
by
it can
ourselves
help
and
somebody.
things like
Yeah,
that.
it's gonna
help
Yes.
somebody.
So we want to tell them so that we can help somebody and so that people will feel so comfortable that they don't hide for 30 years of who they are and what they've been through, who their parents are. So these stories about us hiding it don't have to, happen anymore. We
There's
want to
so
get
much
it all
hiding
out there. I
going
really
on.
wish that the children all over the world would feel comfortable with it, and that's what the hope is for the nonprofit, is to let people know that there's a community out here for you. There's support.
Well, shout out your nonprofit organization.
Thank you. It's
Let them know how to
Invisible Child,
contact them.
InvisibleChild.org, Invisible Child New York. That's InvisibleChildNY.org. Sorry,
yeah.
it didn't change this. Invisible
InvisibleChildNY.org.
ChildNY.org.
.org.
Yeah.
InvisibleChildNY.org.
Org.
Yes.
So please check it out.
How could they
Volunteer.
support? Yeah, how could they support you?
Right
You
on
can donate right off the website.
and you can also volunteer to help for our event on the 29th. We would definitely love as many hands on deck to help out, some sponsors as well as some vendors. You can do all of that on the website as well as on Instagram. Just send a private message if you
There you
want.
go.
Yes. Invisible Child NY is the
What's the date
Instagram.
again?
June 29th. We're going to start
June
around
29th.
Marcus Garvey
Park in
Section
Harlem,
D.
Section D,
Section
120th
D.
Street.
Yes.
Come on out, fellas.
Come on now,
Yes.
Harlem.
Yeah.
All day, 10
Come
to
on
5.
out, fellas. Come
I
on
was
out.
born in
Yes.
Harlem,
What's your service?
so y'all know, raised in Mount Vernon, but born in Harlem.
You're going to have turkey burgers and
We're
stuff?
going to have everything.
Oh, we got
Regular
some
burgers,
good
burger.
vendors,
We
but
have
we
some
need
good
more
vendors. We got some
vendors.
bread coming
If
out
you
with the
can
hot
cook.
dogs and everything like that.
Yes.
It's going to be nice. Yeah, we got hot dogs, chicken, burgers. People are going to set up at their own grill as well, so they're going to be
Okay.
out there.
Mm-hmm.
I wanna
Some
be a
vendors going to be
vendor.
selling plates. Yes, that's awesome. You got Stacy right
All
here.
right,
Let's set it
I'm
up.
going to
Yeah.
sell clothes.
Let's make it happen.
Okay,
I'm going to
yes.
sell T-shirts.
Okay.
Hey, Cal, what's up?
Mm-hmm.
You remember us hanging out back in the day?
That's
I
dope,
just turned it
though. I
around.
mean, fellas, come out and
messed it up.
support. Come out and support Fredell and her cause.
Yes.
Her cause is similar to ours. She's helping children of
Hey,
incarcerated
Renee, that's
parents.
family.
Just like we needed that help, we needed that assistance when we was locked down. Show some of that support to these children because they need your
Absolutely.
help.
Yes.
They need role models. They
Thank
need
you.
mentors. They need to hear your story.
Yes, even
So-
if you would like to come and share your story with some of the children, we appreciate it. Some of the things that I do is I go out and speak at the kids' career day and stuff, and let them know that they don't have to be a product of their environment or a product of their family,
Right.
and that my parents were in prison. I went on to go to college. I went on, join the military and stuff like that, and doing positive things as a black female business owner in a nonprofit organization.
There you go.
They could do it too, and that's something that I want to encourage the children that are affected by this, because a lot of insecurities go with this. You hide so much. Growing up in a family like I grew up in, you couldn't talk about much.
Right.
My dad was adamant about keeping things in
Keeping it
house.
hush.
Yeah. So I grew up with a lot of secrets, and
So-
that secrets kill.
For
It's
sure.
never healthy.
For sure. They burn
Yeah.
you inside.
Yes.
For sure. Well, Fredell, I just want to thank you for showing up.
Thank you for having
Thank you
me.
too, Stace, for being here.
Thank you.
Round of applause for that. For being here, coming out here while you were sick. But still making it. She said
My
she's
pleasure.
a super fella. Thank you very much. I
My
appreciate you.
hometown guy, Dice.
And once again, make sure you support her cause. She shouted out the website. Look her up. Just shout out your Instagram real quick.
Invisible Child NY.
Invisible Child NY on Instagram.
Yeah. Facebook Invisible Child.
Facebook
Yes.
Invisible Child. Thank y'all for tuning in to another
Thank you,
episode of No
guys.
Negative Behavior. It's been my pleasure. And remember, it's always easier to stay out of trouble than it is to get out of trouble. Peace.
true.
Thank you.